The last 2 years have been an incredible journey for the cast and crew of the drama series Merlin. So join them now as they share the secrets and magic of how they made this amazing series. This is an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at how they breathed new life into an already well-known and already well-loved legend.
To start off with how Merlin began, really, the genesis of the idea, we were looking at interesting mythologies to create another high-concept show, and we were looking at the story of the Merlin, the legend of Merlin, and we just thought, well, this is a very interesting mythology to explore, and it felt that it was ripe for reinvention for the 21st century.
What did you do? I said distract them, not knock them out.
That's just no pleasing you sometimes.
We've taken the original myth and they've put their own spin on it. We look at what might have happened if a young Arthur had met with a young Merlin.
You must know the legend, sire.
The Arthurian legend has been retold so many times, and it's retold at each point in history to reflect the times that it's told in. That's why you have so many different versions of it. And this is our version.
We've created our own world, really, and our own era, and all the characters are it's kind of like a prequel to the story that people might know.
The historical character of Merlin, everyone knows, hugely famous, and to do that character and explore that character in a way that's never seen before, that was exciting prospect.
Now what? Maybe we should ask the horse. There's no one here.
To us, it's very exciting because we can go anywhere with it, and if Merlin scholars don't like it, then it just creates interesting debate. So I never feel a pressure or that I should be doing the Merlin legend justice, because we're starting before the Merlin legend began.
A legend of King Arthur being what it is, having such resonance with British people. You know, so many people are aware of Arthurian legend of King Arthur.
One day you will be king of Camelot, and I cannot be your queen.
And the part of Arthur just, really appealed to me because he had so many flaws, but you could see that there was a reason for those flaws.
Gwen says you're cooking.
I need you to fetch me 2 dinners from the palace kitchens.
We played around with lots of stories, and we gradually we brought in Guinevere, and we said, well, Guinevere's the Queen of England, so let's make her a serving girl.
The situation is delicate, and it is not always easy to express what is really in one's heart.
And, Morgana is the person that's ultimately responsible for Arthur's downfall. So let's make her a very empathetic, lovely, beautiful young lady who is, gets on with Arthur very well.
You're going after Gwen?
Of course I'm going after her. What'd you take me for? Couldn't disagree with Father in public.
For this show, everybody asks, do you read up on the legends? And I started to. And then, while I'm familiar with the whole legend, I stopped reading it and stopped basing my character on things that happened, the old stories, because this Morgana is a new version. She is a new telling. She is separate to all of those. And I was just getting confused trying to think of, the history and all these other ones, because none of them are the same.
And so it was all about creating these characters and subverting the expectation of them and seeing how they became what we knew in the legend.
Well, it's great because the show can take elements of the Arthurian legend and twist them and tell them in a new, surprising way. And what's great is very early on in the series, Arthur and Gwen take the big step, the big leap, and it's a huge thing. It's a massive thing in the Arthurian legend, Arthur and Guinevere.
There's a moment where Arthur kisses Guinevere for the first time, and it's curious when you watch it that you feel it has an added extra power, because although they don't, that they will be future king and queen of legend.
I remember it being one of those moments where it's like, oh, it's a little precursor for what's going to happen. So it's great to see the beginnings of these famous stories.
Let's go.
Key to the series for us is the relationship between Merlin and Arthur, in that in the legend, Merlin is the old guy, the wise person that gives Arthur advice. In our series, Merlin is still a geeky teenager who is still struggling to find himself. And so we liked the idea that we inverted that relationship, so therefore that Merlin is the lower status to Prince Arthur, and so therefore is constantly saving Arthur's life, but Arthur never realises. So he's a great, you know, unsung hero.
Can't hide anything from me, Merlin.
It's a compelling drama, the story of a young king and a wizard who helps him achieve a dreamlike, wonderful realm called Camelot, which is ultimately doomed to destroy itself. There's something incredibly powerful about that idea.
1686, take one. And although audiences may already know how the myth ends, for fans of this latest retelling, the fun is in finding out how the legend will unfold.
I'll get you something to stop the bleeding.
It gives us a sort of heads up as an audience, not as an actor, because I don't know what's going to happen next. It's a character. But as an audience, when, say, Lancelot pitches up, we suddenly go, oh, Lancelot, but he's good, you know, and Excalibur pitches up, are various things that we know from the legend. And the producers and writers have had great fun working out what sort of clues that they can filter into the storyline and how the storylines all interweave.
And you don't need to be an expert on Arthurian lore to recognise some aspects of the story.
If people don't know much about Arthurian legend, they do know that Guinevere was married to King Arthur and that she was unfaithful to him with Lancelot. So it's hugely exciting as programme makers to be able to storyline what happened before then.
I'm surprised you would undertake such a rescue mission with just the two of you.
The great thing about this Merlin is that, you know, these things are based on legends, so even though there's history attached to it, like shooting in these wonderful castles, it's that mixed with a whole world that has no, you know, you can make up whatever you want. So these characters can be completely fresh and completely new, so that's fascinating, where you don't have to imitate anything. You can just create them from, you know, as your own. So it's great fun. And then, you know, I love the fantasy epic sort of stuff as well.
What works so well about the series is that the writers and the producers are not afraid to go to darker areas and explore these different avenues that the Arthurian legend really does delve into.
It's not just the show's main cast who have enjoyed filming the magical myth. Guest stars have had great fun with it too.
Like a lot of kids, I think, I read all the Arthur stories, all the legends of Arthur, the Thomas Mallory book that he wrote, Mort Arthur, and I adored it, and I'm having great fun.
Obviously, we've got the elements of Arthurian legend that are there and that do exist, but it's all being turned on its head, and it's all exciting for us to see, you know, how that's being done.
What's interesting is that we're leading up to the actual Arthurian legend more and more. The lady in the lake and all that, all these little details are being placed, and people who keep up with the show will realize it is getting much closer to the famous legend.
But while the classic Arthurian tales have proved pleasingly familiar, making the magic happen has required the cast to master a far more demanding vocabulary.
Ik abite theat stad home.
When we first started Merlin and we were developing it, we had one of those sort of intense conversations that when you look back on you think, God, that was absolutely ridiculous, why were we getting so anxious about it? But we wanted it to be very realistic, the spells. And for the real fans of the show, if they wanted to, could look up and actually realise that those spells are a direct translation of what Merlin or whatever our, you know, person with magic wanted to do.
Hoppa, nu swelche swaflio.
Well, when we first get the scripts come through, they'll have Merlin cast a spell, and they'll say Merlin, and it'll have the spell. And sometimes I'll look at it and go, how do I say that?
Ik bebeat visne. Ik bebeat visne så theat he for sire. Ba, bendetare, drakan. I'm close!
We went through lots of different sort of languages and what language would be best, and we found that Old English was good. And so we wrote to several scholars of Old English at various universities until, you know, somebody said they would help us who didn't think we were completely nuts. Because it's a bit odd letter to write, you know, could you help us write some spells in Old English, please? You kind of get strange looks and replies because people think you're taking the mickey. Our script editors are constantly writing spells. Got quite worrying towards the middle of this series as they started talking to each other in Old English, which kind of disturbed me quite a bit.
Each spell has an actual meaning and a phonetic way of saying it. So, spell, for example, for burning.
For burning.
Which I say will have for burning written, and then it'll have the meaning to set fire to, and then for bear nan. and that's really how it's set out for every spell I get.
For burning, for Gino.
Colin always has a tricky job, but learning the spells is always difficult for him. But what we do is we get proper pronunciation and then we put them onto his iPlayer so he can sort of listen to them. So you have these very funny sort of incongruous shots of Colin with his headphones on, listening to the spells and then going on to set. Once you get the basic sense of the pronunciation, it becomes easier.
And some cast members have had real tongue twisters to tackle.
Perhaps it's not as simple as you would have us believe. Morgause is a sorcerer. She's caused us no harm. Surely not everyone who practices magic can be evil.
It's certainly very difficult for the actors new coming into it.
It's been all the things which I've really wanted to do, which is sword fighting, riding the most sort of fairy tale horse you can imagine, and spell incantation. It reminds me of my Anglo-Saxon days at university, where you have to learn it really like sort of a formula, but it was fun to do.
I saw little bits of her in episode 8 with Igraine and how she did all the spells. She did them completely differently than anybody else had. She made it her own. She made it her characters.
Din sanna tau helpe. Hide eft funda. They on this lane life din sanna wife.
Swefnu!
Now that I've done so many of the spells, it has become easier, so I'll see the spells written down and I'll have an idea of how to say it, but there are a few sort of tricks in there you can trip up on.
Who would have believed it? You, a sorcerer.
I didn't get to see any of Mackenzie actually doing any spell casting, but I didn't envy him whenever I saw it in the script. I thought, whew, glad I'm not saying those ones.
I am returned.
I got to memorize this Old English spell. I can't get it into my head. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I might have to do it a word at a time and then put it all together in the edit.
Poor old Mackenzie Crook had this huge spell in Old English, which, you know, is incredibly intimidating to learn. You know, it was like 4 or 5 lines. It was quite a long spell, and him having to do that and learn it, you know, he looked quite worried about it, but he got into the swing of it, and we wrote it out on boards for him eventually. And then I'd asked him to do it so many times he learned how to do it.
From what I've seen, actually, he's done a great job on it, because I think anybody coming into the show, sometimes the characters and the stories are difficult enough without having to literally speak another language. Everybody just goes for it, and if it sounds like a spell with the flashing of Merlin's eyes and zooming in, it works.
I'm going to practice my spells for the next 6 months.
The next 6 months?
No, I'm going to come back, and then I'll be fluent in spelling.
Fluent in spelling. First got me on the horse, I was loving it.
We've done a lot more riding in this season. They felt more comfortable about us being on the horses, and we've all been out to the ranch with the horses.
Fan of horse riding. The moment they kind of first got me on the horse, I was loving it.
We've done a lot.
Horses kind of, they have them so well trained that, you know, the sort of the Rolls Royce of the horse world, that they can make an idiot like me look good.
I've trained and kept. And the horses are beautiful, stunning, Andalusians.
We've started to have lessons. I've done some riding before, but the guys who do the stunts, who are amazing, and the horses that are incredible, and we've been doing riding with them. It's great fun. I love it.
Tell everyone where we are.
We're in France.
I think we're at a place called Cavalcade, aren't we?
Better material for the show.
What a charming idea this is, Uther.
Yes, a ride before breakfast always gives me a healthy appetite.
They have them so well trained that, you know, the sort of the Rolls Royce of the horse world, that they can make an idiot like me look good.
Come on. What is wrong with this horse? It's even dumber than you, Merlin.
Where are you going? I thought you said it was left.
Not me, it's the horse.
Bradley's got a good sense of coordination, which is very, very useful. His horse riding was a bit dodgy to begin with, but we gave him horse riding lessons between Series 1 and Series 2, and then in Series 2 we were able to get him on a horse and, you know, not have somebody sort of below the camera leading the horse, where he could actually ride it and gallop it.
We are on location, and it's ridiculously early and ridiculously cold and damp. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a horse there banging. That's my horse. I'm going to die. See how much happier he is when he's out? I should have let him out ages ago. See, he's very pretty and much calmer.
Better material for the show.
What a charming idea this is, Uther.
Yes, a ride before breakfast always gives me a healthy appetite.
It was really nice to actually to ride the horses in this series, and we weren't allowed in the courtyard before, and we are now, which is cool, because we've been working with the horses.
But for Merlin, mucking out the horses proved to be a messy business.
There's a scene in the stables where I throw in a smoke bomb and knock Merlin out, and then I let all the horses go, but I've worked with these horses before, so...
Colin, will you just quit horsing around?
Welcome to Camelot. You've trained for this...
Colin! Don't listen to him.
Colin Morgan, hello. Why sit on a beast, you know? So I'm like, on the horse I'm going, and I wanted it to be kind of like, you know, he really takes in the crowd, you know, he's really into it, he's really somebody. The horse starts rearing up.
How did we get apart from the incident where I fell in the toilet?
Oh my God, no!
What?
My...
Got something in my...
No, you got... Oh dear.
Where is it? Is it there?
Oh.
Well, we got wind that they were going to do this joust. It basically Cavalcade who provide the horses. Incredible little horses, a great horseman. And they basically came to the producers and said, this is what we do. Do you fancy it? And the producers went, well, if we could put it together, yes, if we can make it sort of logistically happen.
Obviously, the first thing with the jousting was safety. And we wouldn't have been able to have attempted it without gaining the services of Mario Loresci, who is probably the...
I don't know if you can see, but there's a horse there banging. That's my horse.
That I was sitting there having kittens. I mean, they literally throw themselves off horses. You know, they bounce on their necks. They tumble off the back.
These guys are like #1 horse handlers around the world. They're doing jousting, but they're doing it for real. They're doing it for real with like fiberglass armour that we wear. So these guys are just, they're nutters, absolute nutters, but
I didn't do any horse riding before we started the show, and have kind of learned as I've gone along doing the show. And each, you know, it's because I enjoy it so much. I'm, you know, more than willing to get up on a horse and, you know, get as much riding in as possible.
Here's the star of the show. So Trento, you've been after this horse now for a couple of years. You know, critics have gone crazy for your performance. How do you feel it's gone so far? Really? Okay.
From the horse's mouth.
Oh yeah, sorry. And yeah, how do you feel it's been? You know, working on Merlin. Has it been a show you've enjoyed? Indeed. Okay. It's a pleasure to have, you know, a star of your calibre on the show. You know, I'm sure it'll only lead to bigger and better things for you, because you're a young talent, and the fans of Merlin, you know, there are many of those fans who are fans of Trento as well.
It's the main man. The main.
Yeah, I know. I got it. That's why I kind of went, as I was feeling a bit ill. Colin, will you just quit horsing around?
Welcome to Camelot. You've trained for this day for many years.
Well, he hasn't fallen off his horse.
Your bravery.
I suppose that's something.
why sit on a beast, you know? So I'm like, on the horse I'm going, and I wanted it to be kind of like, you know, he really takes in the crowd, you know, he's really into it, and he's really smooth. The horse starts rearing up. I'm trying to put the joust up in the air, going, yeah. As I do it, I'm pulling my feet inside, so the horse thinks to go, and the guys down in the front is going, hide their foot. So the horse starts going up and down, up and down. I'm just going, absolutely terrified, genuinely terrified. And then Jeremy comes up and goes, yeah, I think we'll just make it comic. I think it was just really funny.
Well, we got wind that they were going to do this joust. It basically Cavalcade who provide the horses. Incredible little horses, a great horseman. And they basically came to the producers and said, this is what we do. Do you fancy it? And the producers went, well, if we could put it together, yes, if we can make it sort of logistically happen.
Obviously, the first thing with the jousting was safety. And we wouldn't have been able to have attempted it without gaining the services of Mario Loresci, who is probably the best horse stunt guy in the world.
It was hugely exciting. That I was sitting there having kittens. I mean, they literally throw themselves off horses. You know, they bounce on their necks. They tumble off the back.
These guys are like #1 horse handlers around the world. They're doing jousting, but they're doing it for real. They're doing it for real with like fiberglass armour that we wear. So these guys are just, they're nutters, absolute nutters, but amazing at what they do.
You almost see the horse's back leg almost trample his head, and it's like, you know, that almost happened, and then the servants that you see sort of running to help them are actually the other horsemen and trained guys, so it all looks very real, because it is.
This series has provided more opportunity to get on a horse and, you know, get practicing.
Seems your horse has brought us to a dead end.
It's great fun, you know, you get to swing a sword and ride around on a horse. You can say you're pretty happy.
While the horses may have hit our screens at full gallop, some of the other creatures of Camelot took a lot longer to realise and required some modern-day magic.
CGI is always very complicated in a television show. In Series 1, we went on a huge learning curve and learned all the tricks of the trade about CGI. And so when we came to Series 2, we came into it more confident. We understood how it worked better, so we could plan for it a lot better.
Visual effects always takes a long time to shoot, because obviously you have to shoot many different plates and elements
that we stick together in the final result. To make sure that I get all those things sharp, we have to sort of carefully plan it.
Seems your horse has brought us to a dead end.
What we do with CGI is we storyboard every frame.
I had my first CGI sequence where I get attacked by giant scorpions. They're called circuits in Camelot, but, you know, they're giant scorpions.
It's always going to be a tricky scene because we have to film it at night. We've gone along with this sort of general consensus that creatures in the night time, we can kind of get them to look better, it's more scary. The scorpions look fantastic in it, you know, really, really good.
When we were filming it, I'd never done any CGI before, so the CGI guy is a guy called Bobby Bowman, and he comes up with, you know, all these marks. And he's like, okay, this is your eye line, and this is where you're looking, okay? Right now, you got it, Katie, now look to that and act to that, and then he takes it away. I'm like, but what am I looking at? It's gone. And he's like, no, just imagine. I'm going, okay. Completely clueless. I mean, Colin's very good at it now because he's had to do it so much.
Why, it is the greatest force of all.
He is able to, you know, stand in front of a green screen and pretend he's talking to a dragon. And that, for a young actor, is not easy to cope with all of the CGI.
Don't pretend, I know you're listening to me.
I don't need to listen to you, Merlin. You always say the same thing. Help me.
We've got creatures that you never imagined coming up against, and that imagination is going to be realised by the mill, and they've got huge ambitions as well to make it bigger and better. So it's all very exciting.
No one escapes from me.
It's not every day you get a job where you get to change into a mythical beast at night. It was a case of, yeah, I'm going to have to scream and I'm going to have to act like I'm turning into a beast. It's not the most natural thing in the whole world. They have to put little markers on your face so that then later on they can, you know, match the two up and make it look like a smooth transition. And it involved facial transformation, back shot and things like that, and when the beast quite literally breaks through.
When we go onto set, we know exactly what shot we're going to do, and we've talked about it in great detail, and it's all about preparation and working out what should be CGI and what should actually be real, and it's always good to have a mixture of both.
I didn't think it could get much bigger than last season, but it has got bigger.
Somebody help her!
And the CGI has got more ambitious and more adventurous. It's pretty cool.
You're a troll.
CG creatures only look as good as how they are lit in the scene.
Monkey!
And the first computer-generated creature our heroes had to face was a giant flying gargoyle.
Hey! Monkey!
We're concentrating on one main gargoyle, which is the winged monkey. Instead of choosing an existing gargoyle that's here and trying to replicate that, we're actually going to be shooting clean, empty plates where we're going to put the gargoyle in to establish it at the beginning of the episode, and then they'll kind of make sense when it comes alive later. You can relate.
There is a scene where they literally climb down from the battlements and walls of Camelot and set about attacking the town. And this goes on, you know, for about half the episode, this great battle.
I had to be attacked by, obviously, an invisible flying monkey, which is kind of strange. It's actually the first CGI that I've done in this show. I'm getting used to where the monkey actually is and its wings and how big it is, and it was quite a challenge.
It's quite an exciting scene, it's quite challenging, and all these things are quite challenging on sort of TV series because it takes quite a lot of filming time and also building the model and animating it all. There's quite a lot of resources it takes up. We can't actually do any work, as in the movement of the creature, until we've actually got the live plates to work on. We can model it, make it as a virtual model, and then when we get the live action, then we can start moving it around and, you know, doing all this action that it needs, you know.
Whenever you do stone creatures coming to life, it's not actually that easy. Turning stone into a living, breathing thing is a challenging piece of CGI.
Retreat! Retreat!
But I think they've done it very well, actually. I think Mill have done a brilliant job.
And the greatest challenge for the Mills CGI wizards was bringing Merlin's giant talking dragon convincingly to life.
Dragons aren't easy. To make a 3D CGI creature credibly speak is difficult, especially if that creature is not humanoid. The dragon's mouth, the way it moves, is very, very different to the way a human moves and speaks. We motion capture John Hurt, only his face in our case, and hopefully take his expressions, the action of his face, and muscle pull it into the 3D model that is the dragon, so a bit of John Hurt comes through. And it does, actually. It genuinely does.
A promise.
A promise.
That one day, you will free me.
The key thing, I think, with CGI, and the thing that we've learned, and Julian and I have learned through all our experience of it, is that it's all about the planning, and you have to plan it in absolute minute detail.
So what we do is we build what we call grayscale models, which are 3D models, but they're not finished, they're not textured, they're not rendered. And we carefully watch those, adjusting the expressions, adjusting the movement, occasionally adjusting the lip sync to try to get it better, just gradually to build up the close-up. And then we render it and texture it and light it and make it look right. So it's quite a laborious process. Every single shot is gone through in this process.
This was never more apparent than when planning the climactic series finale.
What we do is we look at the storyboards and we work out what's action, what's in camera and what's CGI. And then we'll look at our pot of money and go, well, that's not achievable. And so the big red marker comes out and it's like X's through, and as you're kind of slowly killing the director's puppies, there's a sort of a bloody war is waged between director and producer. But it's always a very, very useful argument because it's very passionate, because obviously Julian and I care that the sequence is great, but it has to be achievable, and the director wants it to be as big and dramatic as possible because that's his job. Once we've agreed, you have the blueprint of the shoot, and so therefore when you go on the tech recce, you can stand in the field and work out how we're going to shoot this. We basically used a big football pitch in France near the castle. All the big wide shots were a big locked off camera, and it had to be a big enough field to get the dragon into. So there were lots of discussions about us realising how huge the dragon was, because we've always had him in this cave, and then suddenly when he's in this field, Julian and I looked at each other and thought, God, the dragon really is huge.
He's 60 feet high, he's 60 feet across, and anything you do with a creature that big is challenging. Anywhere he flies, anywhere he breathes fire, you have to take into account how vast he is.
There's all of these important discussions about scale and how that's going to work. And there were some very, very funny moments on the tech rehearsal where we were working out the trajectory of the dragon's tail, that when he lands in the field and his tail moves and he knocks people over, which way is his body moving, which way is his tail moving. And there was this hilarious moment where Jeremy, the director, was pretending to be on a horse, and Julian was sort of very seriously going, okay, so my tail will go this way, so you're that way. And there was these sort of grown men in a field having this ridiculous conversation about horses and dragons, and it's one of those moments as a producer you just go, my job is unbelievably stressful but also hilarious at the same time. When we came to shoot it, all the planning was done, so everybody knew what they were doing, and that's I think the key to CGI in a way, is that it's the preparation of it and the planning.
Young Warlock, what you have shown is what you will be. I will not forget your clemency. I'm sure our paths will cross again.
And so, as the teams both behind and in front of the cameras continue to meet the many challenges set by the show, it seems the magic of Merlin promises to dazzle audiences around the world for some time to come.